A car explosion near the historic Red Fort in the Indian capital, New Delhi, has killed at least 8 and injured many. Police are treating it under anti-terror legislation. This incident shows that the authorities are taking swift action and treating it seriously by invoking terrorism legislation, which may act as a strong deterrent. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to SATV's International Affairs, broadcasting from SATV's Dhaka studio. My name is Rashid Kanchan. I will be your host. I have a very distinguished panelist at his studio, and from Zoom, I have Dr. Rashid. He is a professor, distinguished professor from Dhaka University Political Science Department. I have with me our international affairs commentator Shamsul Alam Panto, and of course from Washington DC, we have our geopolitical correspondent Norman Flood Barnes. First, we want to go to Norman because a breakthrough has taken place in America. Shutdown is going to be end, and American people will see few changes in their democratic process. News is Democratic 8 leaders are coming forward to vote to the Republicans to break the shutdown. Norman, you can start. What are the latest updates on this particular issue, and if there is any other issues you want to put for today's discussion?
Good morning from Washington, D.C. Today we start another fantastic day in the land of wonderland, I guess, of things that are happening. Today we are dealing with several things. First thing is that the Senate, U.S. Senate, was able to come to terms with an agreement to reopen the government yesterday when 8 Democrats decided to break ranks and sit down and say, hey, we're going to let's start the conversation, let's talk, and let's do business. The consequence that is that basically there's no resolution regarding the affordable health care discussion. That discussion hasn't started, which angers the majority of the Democrats, stating that nothing has been achieved by basically conceding to the Republicans' requests. And right now, the House of Representatives, Mike Johnson, has requested that the representatives come back to Washington to review this proposed deal. The sentiments here is that basically the House is not in agreement with this proposal. Right now, the Senate proposal is designed to go until January, the end of January, to open the government back up. So we're waiting to see for the House representative to come back in. As a result of that, what's going on with the shutdown, the air traffic control situation in the United States has exacerbated. It has gotten worse. Yesterday, several airports, including Dallas-Fort Worth, had to shut down for a period of time because they did not have staff to work. People have not been paid, and people are calling out sick.
All right.
The president has requested, actually, he has demanded that the air traffic controllers come back in, but the word is from the FAA is that we will have continual lapses and cancellations because there are not enough people to man and control the air traffic area. So we're looking for that number from 10% to go up to 15, 20, maybe whatever. And we're coming into the holiday time, Thanksgiving, where people traditionally travels. Creates a big problem.
All right. Norman.
And also, finally, the SNAP program. The SNAP program is also being reviewed because this was sent to the Supreme Court. And Tuesday, we hope to have a determination of the Supreme Court on whether or not they are going to release the funds.
Norman, all right. I always love to start from Washington is because the most of the international affairs take shape or moves or get redirected from Washington DC, and it is called Washington is the world's capital, world's decision maker, world's policy maker. I want to include and invite our international affairs commentator who is relentlessly watching international medias to find out and to catch the top issues. Sir, I want to put it to you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kanchan. Of course, a warm welcome to Professor Rashid in the studio, and Norman Floyd Barnes joining us from Washington, D.C. As Mr. Norman was saying about what is happening regarding the government shutdown, 8 senators have agreed in a massive shocker to the Democratic Party. I understand that everyone is now voicing their concerns regarding Chuck Schumer. They are not happy with him at all, and this is one of the news out of the United States of America. There's one more. The U.S. military has striking 2 vessels in the Pacific Ocean, killing 6 people suspected of narco smuggling, according to Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. And also along in the Middle East, the Israeli Knesset on Monday approved a preliminary reading a bill allowing the government to shut down foreign media outlets without prior judicial approval. We know that how many journalists have been affected in the last 2 to 3 years offensive inside the Gaza Strip. And in Turkey, Mustafa Kemal Atatürk, the founder of the Republic of Turkey, was commemorated yesterday on the 87th anniversary of his passing. I know that our viewers in Bangladesh can relate, as in Banani, the road is named after such a leader.
Wonderful, sir. You have related very nicely with the relationship between Turkey and Bangladesh. Bangladesh has dedicated a huge road, important road, commercially very important road in the name of Kemal Atatürk. We have great respect for this wonderful Turkish leader. Here is a professor, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Rashid. Professor Rashid is always very outspoken, very dynamic, and very straightforward on his speech. Sir, I just want to ask you one question. As you heard, the United States Senate has approved a bill to reopen the government after a record long shutdown, with 8 Democratic congressmen breaking party ranks. I have framed the question for you. What made this shutdown record long, and what lessons should be drawn for future budget or stand-off politics?
Thank you, gentlemen, and also our guest from USA, Dr. Norman, and our viewers. So I think you put a right question regarding the Democrats and Republicans have agreed upon a compromise. Particularly, they are on the way to make a compromise to reopen the federal services, like federal employees who are being unpaid for nearly a month. So, you know, unlike other countries in the world, USA has a unique system. Like, although in the other countries you can run your governmental functions through previous year's budget, but in the US case, you know, you have to be when government decide that you have to stop, it has to be a stop. No more function is going on. So I think that's a huge implication for the employees, federal employees, their family members, and also the general public who is actually denied from their services and support from the government employees and the department. So I think this is a beautiful compromise that made by the Democrats and Republic to reopen the federal government services. I think at the end of the day, democracy is beautiful exercise of compromise. At the end of the day, until and unless you decide that you don't need the federal government, you can continue doing like this. But you need a federal government, you need federal government services and department are running. So which is very much linked with people's life and livelihood, and also the people need those government services. As you said, the air traffic control, which is hugely has an implication for people travels, leisure, and also businesses. So I think at the end of the day, they made a beautiful compromise, and it's really needed. And at the end of the day, I think this US system of government shutdown is quite unique in the global perspective, and I think it's very important in terms of putting check and balance in the government expenditure, and also including the opposition into the decision-making process, which is US Senate is doing. Thank you.
All right, sir. American popular female politician Hillary Clinton tweeted wonderful things. She welcomes the reopening, and she's written, "The opening of the government is a relief for the millions of citizens and stops further economic and social damage, a positive outcome." She welcomes this. And President Joe Biden tweeted, "The cross-party cooperation through limited may indicate some functional governance and a willingness to compromise in extreme conditions." I just framed one more question for Norman. Norman, what was the cost economic, social, political of the shutdown, and how should that be measured? And one more question I want to add with this, because you are in the spot. What does this say about the balance of power between the legislative and executive branches in the US? Because Congress is Republicans control, Senate is Republican controls, and White House is also Republican controls. What you gonna say for this?
Thank you for the question. The process is one where the Democrats and the Republicans basically balance each other out. The majority right now is for the Trump administration is the Republican by his own design and architect. We have a very complex system here in the United States where basically no one party, you see an example here, even though they are in control, they're actually not in control. So what we're seeing is basically the issue of affordable care, health care, and right now we're looking at people losing jobs. The Republicans has a pause and it has a position they want to maintain. However, the situation is basically is causing people jobs. It could be causing people lives, and is also interfering with the reputation that the United States has globally. Our internal matters is overshadowing our great potential, our great presence. We have serious issues in the United States regarding how we want to govern. We have a president who has a mindset, and we also have a Congress that has a dysfunctional role in dealing with things. They are not coming to terms, they can't compromise, and as a result, the people is suffering from this, financially, mentally, and whatever. There are some situations, good examples, the farmers. The farmers has been put out in the pasture. They're the ones that put the president in office. There's a report last other day that certain farmers are basically affected by this to the point where they're actually committing suicide. Yes, they are actually taking their lives because they do not see an end. They do not see a future. And all of their work they've done generationally has come to the point, due to the new administration changes, they are losing it at all. So the losses are both financially, but more importantly, generational.
Norman, entire world was waiting what President Trump gonna put in his social accounts, but he is still silent. In 1 week in a row, he has been defeated in so many issues. Number one is New York's Mamdani's election. Number two, he failed to accommodate Vladimir Putin in Ukraine issue. He failed to come into a deal with China. Now he has got a good news, but he is still silent. I just want to know from our international affairs commentator, because when he was in Washington, the shutdown begins. Am I right, sir?
Yes.
When you are in this studio, shutdown reopens. So I want to do a question like this: how significant is this bipartisan break? 8 Democrats in ending the stalemate. Does it signaling changing dynamics in United States politics, or it is going to be an example for the entire world?
Thank you, Mr. Kanchan. First of all, we know that this has been the longest U.S. federal shutdown. It has been affecting various markets inside United States. And of course, let me give the reasoning to why these 8 senators had deflected towards the Republican Party, also known as the Grand Old Party. Their stated reasoning includes the shutdown was inflicting too much pain on federal workers. They weren't getting paid. The food assistance program and travel tourism in states like Nevada were being affected. And of course, they judged that reopening the government at this moment is necessary. Maybe then negotiating the terms for a healthcare premium would be better later discussed than continuing the shutdown, which was of course affecting the American economy. This is the reasoning that these 8 senators had given when they were asked why they had chosen the Republican stance. And of course, because of doing so, progressives on the left wing, the AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Bernie Sanders, all of them are now voicing out how it will be affecting general Americans in the long run. And from what I know, they're looking forward towards a vote in December to understand where they stand. Of course, it is a breakthrough, somewhat of a breakthrough, that the House passed a vote of 60-40, enough to reopen the federal government. But once again, damage has already been done in the last 40 days. When I was in the United States, I saw the shutdown happening and how almost everyone, almost major stores were closing down because they did not know what to do, and uncertainty being the fact. I mean, Bangladesh has been reeling with uncertainty for the last 1 year and a half, but only 40 days it took for America to come to its realization that they must work together.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Here is a professor whose subject is politics. He teaches politics. He writes politics. He talks politics. We need to get a conclusion from him. Before that, I just want to give a fact on him. The fact that the shutdown occurred at all and lasted so long, more than 41 days, reflects deep flaws in the system of governance and budgeting in the USSR. Question for you: for other countries facing similar budget impasses, what models or warnings does this case provide? Along with, I just want to ask you one question: do you find it, this kind of things, is a beauty of democracy or balance of power?
Thank you so much. Like it gives a voice to the opposition political party to put the government party into accountability, like the expenses they are made in the whole year. So I think USA in severe trouble for a long period of time due to their global pledges, like the pledges, open pledges they gave for Israel for a long period of time. They have also huge expenses in the Ukraine war, which put US economy in complete trouble actually. Their debt, I mean, the limit is exceeding year after year, and that puts a huge implication on the federal budget capacity. So that's why this problem is happening. Although our guest Norman was saying that like there is the issues of the health premium and how healthcare issues, like how they're gonna settle that. Although Republican is very much pro-market, but the Democrat is trying to put that into an accountable situation. So that's the main emphasis. But at the end of the day, I think this is a good example, like how you put your ruling party into accountable situation. And I quite like this. Although it's a huge implication for the federal workers, their families, and the people who are taking those federal services. But at the end of the day, it is really a good way to make the ruling party accountable about their expenses and accountable about their budgetary capacity, which is really important and very beautiful exercise of democracy in USA in this regard at least.
I really appreciate, but I have a bad news for Norman, CNN commentator Jack Tapper already said that he has a conversation with many Democrats. He mentioned at least 9-10 Democrats leader. They said the deal may be short term, fix rather than long term structural reform, potentially setting up similar crisis in very near future. What is your experience?
Thank you for the question. The action of the Senate, yet it was well received, and it's great for getting some of the workers back, but it does not resolve the overall issue. The issue is that basically I want to put it this way: you have the Republican way, and you have the Democratic way, and then you have the American way. That is where we are right now. We have parties that very strong on, I want to maintain the status situation, the Republicans. I want to maintain the status quo. We are moving forward with a shorter, smaller government, more efficient. And then you have the Democrats who want to deal with issues with healthcare, food, funding, jobs, whatever. And then we have the Americans in the middle. They are suffering. While both parties are fighting over who rules, who has control, they are suffering. They're losing jobs. People can be losing healthcare situations. They do not have enough money to eat And winter is coming in the United States just like other parts of the world. Cost of heating, fuel, transportation, all these things are hitting the American pocketbooks, and they do not have the means and the money to do so. So the senators who decided to come over is approaching, looking at the big picture. We have to be concerned about the Americans, what the Americans need and what's going on. While the Democratic Party and Republican parties are very hell bent on holding their position and getting their way, the Americans are not receiving this. And Americans have long memories, and we have midterms coming up. So we are expecting a resounding change coming up for midterms as a result of this stagnate.
Norman, very well articulated. We have to go for a short commercial break, but after the break we will discuss Nicolas Sarkozy has been released from prison under judicial supervision. It is a beauty of French judiciary system. We will definitely talk on that. Ladies and gentlemen, for a short break. As we said, we will discuss about the Nicolas Sarkozy's release issue, but we have more burning issue right this moment at our hand. US flights disruption, over 2,000 cancelled amid shutdown, and winter weather. Weather is also not favoring. In the US, more than 2,000 flights were cancelled as combined factors of weather and government shutdown disrupted air traffic control. I want to take Norman's position first. There is a news in different American outlets that passengers will go for claiming insurance from the insurance companies for flight cancellation, but insurance companies are combinedly silent, and the licensing authority of the airlines, US federal government, are also very silent. In that case, what would be the next consequences for the passengers who has lost money, time, missed the appointment with the friends and families, and disrupted business as well? Norman, what is your assessment on that?
Yes, the situation, as I mentioned earlier, is bleak. The air traffic control system is not as simple as, yes, you can come back to work. No, you can't come back to work. The system is already in place. We're basically dealing with an avalanche. It's already started the perpetual motion. The air traffic controllers are the ones that are working are very tired. They're stressed. They are calling out sick. They're not being paid. There's in an industry that is very stressful, high pressure, even with the funding. The situation now has gotten to a point where it's now a air safety issues. We are looking at additional, even if everybody come back to work tomorrow, that will not resolve the issue with the air traffic control system. The system is antiquated, it needs to be updated. The staff is overworked. There's not enough air traffic controllers from the start. DOSH has affected that process. So we do not have the people, and the people we do, we are basically abusing them and overworking them. So the consequence is that we're going to be in a situation soon that we will not have air traffic in the United States to the point that we're familiar with, due to the fact that we do not have the people to man these positions. This week will show there will be an increase. Certain places will be shutting down. Hospital, airports will not be able to provide services and traffic in a safe manner. So we have a choice of working with what we have and risking problems and accidents, or we do not open up at all and creates the problem. So the issue is basically right now, we have an air traffic crisis in the United States developing. And the holidays is a period of time, as particularly areas like Chicago, we have snow already coming down. We got a snowstorm coming in. It's affecting Chicago.
All right.
It's affecting other areas like that. So the storm is coming this way.
Almost
the airports are going to be affected by
yes,
this.
Norman, almost every single airport. I know our international affairs commentator Shamsul Alam Panto has gone through very deep on this particular issue, on the air traffic control issue. Sir, how far does the government shutdown affect critical infrastructure like air traffic control, and what are the broader implications? Because I just want to know, America is the world's richest economy, richest military, richest discipline, and one of the vast land, 52 states total. They have very internal and domestic connections. Hundreds of thousands of passengers has got suffered. So what is your comment on that? Do you think America is still unable to control their aviation system?
Thank you, Mr. Kanchan, for the question. Of course, we know that due to this federal shutdown, many of the employees have been furloughed, removed from governmental tasks and jobs. It's not only the airlines or the air industry in America, but I want to let our viewers know that this infrastructure, after every flight, there is a scheduled maintenance on engines. There are catering options to be refilled on planes. So there is a massive workload that requires for a plane to take off and land. Sometimes these are overlooked in the face of general traveling. But citizens not being able to move around between the various states in America, it does make sure that they are unhappy with their government because of consequences outside of their control. And I just want to mention an uncanny resemblance. Donald Trump, US President, had asked for employees to come back to the workforce, especially the air traffic controllers and, of course, those in the FAA. But my statement would mean back in the day, Donald Trump used to have his own airline company, Trump Shuttle Inc. It operated from 1989 to 1992. And that is when Donald Trump had direct communication with this industry. I just hope that he understands his past and to make amends with the current situation.
Sir, let us know the political stand-ups from a political science professor. Sir, if political stand-ups like shutdown continue to affect essential services like aviation, hospitals, schools, road transportations, shipping lines, it raises serious questions about the governance strength, risk management and prioritization of public safety. Do you expect it from a country like United States, from an administration like Donald Trump?
Thank you. Yeah, you rightly remarked about that, like why the government is needed, particularly to improve the security and maintain the stability in your everyday lives. That's why you need a government. Otherwise, you don't need a government. So, considering the emergency services, I think even the shutdown is taking place, in the future, America should come up with a solution like the emergency services should be exempted from the shutdown, and there should be fund should be remain kept for those emergency services like the air traffic control, hospitals, and roads and transports, and other the emergency law and order, maintaining those issues. So I think there should be globally there is a tradition that emergency services are usually out of I mean any other prohibition or any other movement. So I think emergency service should be kept running on, even though the shutdown is taking place in the future for like the I mean reducing government, I mean people anger on the government system and government. Yeah.
Now, it is a huge question, who will take care of the passengers, who will take care of the sufferers, how should airlines and government share responsibility when system failures hit travelers? And one more thing, 15 December is coming, holiday will start in America for Thanksgiving and Christmas and yearly holiday. There will be more frequent travelers will traveling more, and that would be tough to take the loads of the passengers. Is there any preparation for that? Because hundreds of thousands of tourists also will be that time in United States. Mr. Norman, how you think it?
Well, we have these holidays that come up every year. We've been doing it for hundreds of years. We know Christmas is here. We know Thanksgiving is here. We know tradition. Unfortunately, Congress apparently forgot all of this. You know, in their midst of control, we have discontent. We have a lack of control. We need to have a system in place. As I mentioned, your colleague mentioned, there need to be a separate budget put aside for public safety, emergency response. These things will have to go regardless. It cannot be contingent on how the Democrats or Republicans feel about each other. That system has to go. We have to go back to what I call the American way. We have to be able to preserve and protect the environment while you talk about these issues, but the government has to govern, and part of that is public safety. So now we have a situation where we have a public safety issues, travel, holidays, food. All these things are public safety issues, like of food, like of energy, like of transportation, like of you know, basic concern about human rights. So these things has to be re-looked at as we go through this process. This process is a time for the Americans to basically analyze how do we feel about our government and what do we need to do in terms to ensure that our safety first is taken care of and is not contingent on a few elected officials.
All right, Norman, let's look at France. What's happening there? Nicolas Sarkozy, former French president, has been released from prison less than 3 weeks into a 5-year sentence for criminal conspiracy, but remains under judicial supervision. Huge criticism is also going on, and the beauty of French judiciary system is also praised. I just want to begin with our international affairs commentator. He has a good study on this. Sir, what does this early release say about the French justice system and its treatment of high profile political figures? I want to call it an elite treatment.
Thank you, Mr. Kanchan, for the question. 3 weeks ago, former French President Nicolas Sarkozy had given himself in. This is an act of coming to the court and saying, you can arrest me now, I am ready to face my sentence. So spanning from that day to today, after 3 weeks, he has been released from prison, but he is still under the supervision of the judicial, strict judicial services. He will be barred from leaving France ahead of a appeal trial due to be held next year. Of course, as your question was saying, there is some type of beauty into this French legislation. Let me remind our viewers, he was a leader of France. So once again, if it was not for him, it is also for his position that has allowed for such a news to come out of Europe.
But here is a criticism: the early release may be seen as preferential treatment for the elite, which could undermine perceptions of equal justice under the same law in the same motherland. I want to add Professor Rashid, he is my very favorite. How will this decision be perceived by the public and victims of or activists who oppose Sarkozy's past actions?
Thank you so much. I think the court actually judged the issues on the basis of that there is no concrete evidence they found that the monetary transaction taken place between Gaddafi and the aides of Nicolas Sarkozy. Although there are charges, criminal charges, there are charges of corruptions that before his election campaign he took money from Muammar Gaddafi for his election financing. So that's the claim, that's the conviction he got. But the court actually look into the issues from the merit of like whether any concrete evidences is produced regarding that matter. But the court has found that I think he has his close aides population has a contract with the Gaddafi's close aid populations, and that's how that I mean, and the timing of that conversation and timing of the association between the two countries, I mean Nicolas Sarkozy's aides and Gaddafi's aides, so which made a court to presume that there might be something going on, there might be something happened between them. So on that ground, actually, since they do not produce any concrete evidences, that's why probably court has given him some release or giving him some bail, although he will be in the judicial supervision. That's the beauty. Yeah.
Right, sir. I'll go for a break, but before that, I want to do two small questions to both of you, because I have huge interest on this judicial process. Could this set a precedent for other political leaders globally facing legal consequences? Because we have very bad experience. A 78-year-old former 3 times prime minister was in prison for nothing. What is your comment on that?
So I think, yeah, I mean, law is for everyone, and it doesn't give any differential treatment to each citizen. It's actually, otherwise there should be no constitution in the country. The constitution give equal rights to every people of the country. It's not that elite or non-elite, although behind the curtain we see some of these issues globally. That's not in any cases, but as far we understand, in the Western democracies, they have a very beautiful systems. They can penalize any person, and the leaders of the Western democracies are also very much careful about their political and everyday day-to-day affairs. That's the Western democracy.
Right, sir. I really liked your term, behind the curtains there are some favors and disfavors. I want to get an impression of this kind of very smart generation, our international affairs commentator Shamsul Pantho. Sir, how might this affect public trust in institutions in France or elsewhere in the world?
Thank you, Mr. Kanchan. Regardless of what your accusations or allegations are against you, prison does create the image of somewhere bad, the living conditions are worse. You will not necessarily be able to live properly there. But according to the BBC, Nicolas Sarkozy had a toilet, a shower, a desk, a small electric hob, a small TV for which he paid a monthly €14 fee, and the right to a small fridge. It almost feels that French prison is equivalent to a Bangladeshi 5-star hotel.
See how deep he has gone. He has the list of what are the materials in his room. I personally visited Al Rashid prison in Baghdad, and I have seen what a terrible condition for the prisoners. Ladies and gentlemen, time again has come to go for a short break, but still we have many good materials for you.
সারা দেশে লাখো মানুষের কঠোর কর্মতৎপরতা ও নিষ্ঠায় এসএ পরিবহন পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস এখন 16 কোটি মানুষের হাতের নাগালে। দীর্ঘ 30 বছর ধরে বিশ্বস্ততা ও দ্রুততার সাথে সেবা দেওয়ায় গ্রাহক সেবায় এখন শীর্ষে। বাংলাদেশে গ্রাহক সেবার সাফল্যের পর এসএ পরিবহন পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস এখন বিশ্ব বাণিজ্য কেন্দ্র সিঙ্গাপুরে। আপনার যে কোনো পণ্য সিঙ্গাপুর থেকে বাংলাদেশে বুকিং এর জন্য যোগাযোগ করুন। এসএ পরিবহন প্রাইভেট লিমিটেড, লজিস্টিক্স পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস, 22 রবার্টস লেন, সিঙ্গাপুর 218302। ফোন 0065 629 24900। বাংলাদেশ থেকে সিঙ্গাপুরে পণ্য বুকিংয়ের জন্য যোগাযোগ করুন ঢাকা সহ দেশের যে কোনো ৮০টি শাখা কেন্দ্রে। SA পরিবহন পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস, আপনার সেবা সব সময়।
Welcome, Grand Palace Hotel, Dhaka. A majestic lobby blending timeless elegance with modern design. Experience 5-star comfort in suites and rooms. Sophisticated fine dining restaurant. Crystal clear swimming pool for ultimate relaxation. Modern gym and serene spa for well-being. Perfect venue for corporate events, weddings and parties. Seamless and
we must look at what's happening in African region. African Union calls for urgent action amid fighting in Central Sudan and Mali. Hundreds of people displaced by fighting in Central Sudan, and African Union is urging urgent intervention in Mali amid unrest, but they did not mention whether it is French troops, American troops or United Nations troops. Probably they are talking about the African combined forces. Sir, what is your latest update on that?
I think, yeah, the situation is very grave at the moment in Sudan. What's going on at the moment? Like, it's very unfortunate. If you have resources, if you have like rare materials like gold in your country, it's not. It is really bad situation for African population and the countries and their future. Like what happening in at the moment Sudan and what happens in other earlier places is very devastating and very heartbreaking at the moment. So the casualties that are taking place within the government and within the two government forces like the paramilitary force and army forces, and that create a massive insecurities and casualties for the Sudanese population. So at the moment, I deeply agree that the African Union should come up either rather than Western troops or Western countries' dependencies. They have to come out from the African voice and African way of containing the crisis at the moment that's happening in Sudan. So I think it would be really good move if all the African countries contribute their the human power, human soldiers to come into take the control of the situation in Sudan and make a peace agreement between the two fighting forces. And it's a high time that the global the countries who are actually patronizing this conflict in Sudan, like the UAE, as we heard, and also Egypt, as we heard, they are patronizing this conflict. They have to stop for the sake of the life of civilian, like the small kids, they are dying, and the women and elderly, they are also suffering a lot. So I think it's a global responsibilities, and I think the majority responsibility should be taken by the African Union leaders, and their common actions, plans to contain the situation in Sweden is very important.
Very rightly you said. I just want to go to our international affairs commentator Shamsul Pantho. Sir, what specific steps should the African Union and international community take to stabilize Central Sudan and Mali right now? Because we know China has a huge dominance on the African countries according to the financial issue. As Professor has rightly said, the UAE has engaged themselves into the conflict, and Sudan, Egypt also. So it is a dimensional problem. What do you think? What African Union should go for it?
Thank you, Mr. Kanchan, for the question. I was listening to our professor in the studio, and of course, according to various news outlets, the Rapid Support Forces has agreed to a humanitarian truce proposal drafted by a quartet of countries, of mediating countries, which include the United States, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, and of course Egypt. But before arriving at this, we knew that they had conducted atrocities towards the people of El Fasher. Almost 82,000 people have been displaced from that region. Of course, United Nations Human Rights Office warns of intensified hostilities ahead despite this truce agreement. And one of the news that came out of the UAE, influencers inside United Arab Emirates have taken to social media to bully, to patronize the fact that the RSF have been conducting these heinous crimes towards the Sudanese people. It is a matter to be, it is very alarming that influencers are taking sides from a different country in a matter that is outside of their own borders. Of course, this is important, as you were saying, the African Union and how contenders such as China has investments inside Africa as a whole. You see, Sudan, north or south, they have gold mines which are highly valuable, and this is where the fighting has unfolded. Of course, at this moment, there is a truce. I believe it to be as similar to the Gaza truce, very fragile.
All right, sir, we must talk about the COP30, because COP29, till COP29, no decision has made yet, but Bangladesh is still suffering and in a vulnerable situation, especially in the coastal belt areas. Sir, I want to get your take. What really you expect from COP30 from Brazil?
Thank you so much for bringing the issues. Like, it's a very important issue in the global context. So we had a very beautiful Paris Agreement to neutralize the carbon emission and to reduce the carbon emission by 2100 by 1.5 degrees Celsius. Global temperature has to be cut down, otherwise we have a huge global threat of life and livelihood in every corner of the world. So that was the Paris Agreement target. But since then, no development, nothing has happened. So I think for me, the great expectation from this COP30 in Belém is to come up with the complete implementation action points from the countries to curb down, to neutralize the carbon emission globally. Otherwise, the crisis is unfolding everywhere in the world. You know, in South Asia, we have seen a huge cloud burst has taken place in Pakistan, and massive casualties of life and livelihoods and assets has taken place. It's happened also in India as well, and in Bangladesh. In the coastal belts, we have been seeing that sea level rise is continuously rising, salinity is increasing, and the people are displaced from the areas due to riverbank erosion, coastal erosion in so many parts of the countries of Bangladesh. And also in Philippines, we are currently seeing a massive typhoons is taking place.
One after the other?
Yeah, one after the another. So we have seen the global climatic, the standard climatic ecosystem has been jeopardized. So it's a global call of action is needed for reducing the carbon emission by the greatest emitters of the carbon, and also channeling the financial flows for the climate vulnerable countries to cope with these exacerbating climatic issues they are facing in their river, in the seashore, and also the salinity, sea level rise in the countries there. So which is a huge consequences for the people's lives, livelihoods of these climate vulnerable countries. So global action is needed to reduce climate emission, and also nationally agreed upon action plan is very much needed. You can put a country's some embargoes, but if the nation doesn't feel that I have to reduce my carbon footprints, that will not happen, that will not actually materialize. So I think in this COP30, a great expectation would be, nationally determined contribution to reduce the carbon emission by that nation would be very much helpful and very much effective if that has been taken place.
Very nice, sir. I have bad experience. A couple of years ago, I have covered Mexico, Cancun COP conference, and I have seen there is 3 groups. One is carbon emission group, rich countries group. One is NGOs group. Another one is the victim group. Sir, I want to get your take, and we are running out of time. Would you please tell us your position, the Bangladesh's position, because Bangladesh is hugely suffering and hugely vulnerable situation.
I'll try to be as fast as I can. Of course, in the case of Bangladesh, we are affected more or less by earthquakes and hurricanes in our history. But this year around, the Bay of Bengal was spared, while the South China Sea wasn't. We've seen Typhoon Kalmegi going through Vietnam, destroying one of its oldest wooden bridges. And of course, immediately afterwards, Typhoon Phungwang has landed in the Philippines, killing many lives. And of course, a bridge was seen swaying violently as this typhoon had approached. Of course, this year in the typhoon climate, we see that it is affecting other South Asian nations, not only Bangladesh. So of course, we have a global requisition, as Bangladesh is one of those countries that is affected the most as a consequence of global climate change.
Excellent. Ladies and gentlemen, we really appreciate your patience for watching this show, and you may make this show very popular. right this moment we are getting a lot of responses from around the globe about this show. We are getting topics to discuss in this show. This is of course the achievement of our viewers first, then us. Today is 11 November and one of the very favorite personality, Leonardo DiCaprio, his birthday today. We want to convey our best wishes for him. Happy birthday to you, and we will see you tomorrow.